Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast, where we explore the practices that actually promote good aging by bringing together the East and the West. The subject of discussion today is something that most of us touch before we even complete our first cup of coffee, bread, or that comforting warm meal. But is it still the friend we believe it to be after 60? Before the day even starts, it may be negatively impacting your health. That's why we're talking about which breads help your joints, strength, and memory, and which ones subtly harm your health. Today, we're joined on this show by a living legend who doesn't require an introduction anymore. Japan's oldest practicing physician, Dr. Shigeki Hinahara, who is over 100 years old, still sees patients, walks every day, and is more shrewd than ever. "It's an honor, Doctor," John said, "and all the audience members, thank you. Let's make another fantastic episode." You're right. Bread appears to be innocuous. After 60, that first bite in the morning can be a hint of disaster, even though it's quiet and familiar. The wrong bread sends all the wrong signals, and your body is now more sensitive to sugar, inflammation, and imbalance. Therefore, making better choices rather than completely giving up bread is the goal. That's right. The bread itself isn't the bad guy. It has been baked by humans for thousands of years. The bread we see on grocery store shelves today, however, is a different animal. It's quick, fluffy, high in sugar, low in fiber, and packed with substances your stomach doesn't understand. As a result of something we hardly consider, we experience blood sugar fluctuations, joint discomfort, and mental fog. Here's the reality though. You can still be nourished by the correct bread. Let's now discuss the distinction after 60. There are 4 breads to leave behind, and 4 that will return the favor. That's really eye-opening, because bread is typically regarded as the meal's safest component. However, I've heard that it can suddenly become one of the most harmful around the age of 60. Let's be more precise. Which bread do you advise elders to stay away from initially, and why? White sandwich bread is the first. It can be found in hospital trays, cafeterias, sandwiches, and toasted is advertised as being easy, soft, and even reassuring. However, because it is manufactured from highly refined wheat flour, typically bleached, stripped of fiber, and enhanced with synthetic nutrients that don't absorb well in an aging gut, it is one of the most harmful types of everyday meals for seniors. White bread does not provide your body with slow continuous nourishment similar to eating sugar. It receives a spike in glucose. Insulin is triggered by that increase, and the insulin roller coaster is the start of inflammation in your blood vessels, joints, and brain. That's unexpected because most people assume it's a wise decision when they read the words enriched or fortified on the label. Are you suggesting that it isn't genuinely beneficial, especially for seniors, because of those extra nutrients? Yes. The natural minerals and fibers that were eliminated during processing cannot be replaced by those additional nutrients, which are frequently artificial and poorly absorbed. It's similar to pasting on artificial leaves after removing the roots of a tree. It can't nourish anything, but it looks fine. I recall a 72-year-old patient named Misart Nakagawa. Although he appeared healthy, he frequently complained of afternoon crashes and memory loss. He walked every day and had no serious health issues, but he always began his day with 2 pieces of white toast. His energy level normalized in a matter of days after we took that one item out of his breakfast and swapped it out for something slower to digest. He claimed that by the second week, his ideas were more distinct, and by lunchtime, the pain in his knees had subsided. Even something as simple as switching up the bread for breakfast may make a big difference and make you re-evaluate the power of food. Do minor adjustments like cutting out white bread frequently result in this kind of transformation? Indeed, that is not uncommon. Over 2,000 elderly were followed for 5 years in a 2017 longitudinal research that was published in the Journal of Nutrition and Aging. Regular consumers of refined grains, such as white bread, were at a higher risk of pre-diabetic diseases, had higher inflammatory markers, and experienced cognitive deterioration at noticeably faster rates. White bread may seem benign at first, but it turns into a silent saboteur over time. Particularly after the age of 60, treat it like sugar. I say a treat once in a while, not every day. That significantly changes our perspective on something as simple as toast. And I'm sure that many of the listeners have already moved on from white bread, believing they've made a better decision. Multigrain bread is one of the most popular substitutions I find, particularly among older folks who are attempting to practice mindfulness. It has seeds on top, has a rustic appearance, and is labeled as whole or natural. However, is that a better choice, or just another ruse in fact? It's among the most dishonest choices. The health benefits of multigrain bread vary greatly depending on how it is prepared. White bread is frequently what people are actually purchasing. The basis is still refined wheat flour. Even if the grains are combined in small amounts, or sprinkled on top, this implies the same inflammatory cascade, blood sugar increase, and quick digestion, merely sporting a jacket coated in seeds. That's surprising because most individuals actually believe they're choosing a healthy decision when they see the word multigrain. The trick is this: terms like made with whole wheat or multigrain do not imply anything. You're probably being missold if the initial ingredient isn't made entirely of whole grains. Many of these loaves are colored with caramel to make them look darker, or they are sweetened and flavored with molasses to prolong their shelf life. Therefore, even if it tastes good, it can be steadily hurting you by increasing insulin resistance, joint stiffness, and blood sugar levels. Patients have told me that they thought they were doing everything correctly when they moved to multigrain. However, by midday, their ankles were swollen, their intellect felt slow, and their morning blood sugar was still rising. The difference was noticeable when we substituted a fully entire sprouted bread for that one, not only in test results, but also in their experiences memorizing names or climbing stairs. That's amazing, and to be honest, a little annoying, because a lot of these decisions are being made with the wrong knowledge, but in good faith indeed. And there's another worry: grains that are not properly prepared. Your bread's grains may aggravate bloating and upset your digestive system if they aren't soaked or sprouted, particularly in elderly people whose gastrointestinal motility is slower. Your stomach is not the only organ affected by this type of internal tension. It has an impact on sleep, emotions, and memory. You make a really solid point, because we rarely think about how the grains were treated. Even if we talk a lot about carbohydrates and sugar, and how your body responds to the bread matters more than what's in it. Another tendency that I see rapidly expanding is this one, particularly among those attempting to consume gluten-free, clean bread. It's practically a health badge. I am aware that you have also issued a warning regarding this one. What's the issue? Is it always best to avoid gluten? Absolutely not. And one of the most common misunderstandings in contemporary health is this: something is not necessarily healthy just because it is gluten-free, particularly beyond age 60. In actuality, a lot of gluten-free breads are worse than the originals. The majority of commercial gluten-free loaves are made with high glycemic starches such as potato starch, rice flour, cornstarch, or tapioca starch. These are really high-quality components. They have little to no fiber and nutritional content, digest quickly, and raise blood sugar levels even more quickly than white bread. It surprises me due to the fact that gluten-free is currently promoted almost like a medication. People believe they are helping their gut. Indeed, it becomes risky at that point. If you switch to gluten-free bread without a reason, it can backfire unless you have celiac disease or a confirmed gluten sensitivity. You're exchanging gluten, a troublesome protein, for a mixture of starches and binders that your body could find difficult to digest. Additionally, certain binders such as guar gum, xanthan gum, or additional emulsifiers can irritate the lining of the stomach, particularly in elderly people whose digestion is already delicate. After switching to gluten-free bread, I've observed patients experience increased fatigue, bloating, and even joint discomfort. Despite their best efforts, the food continued to work against them. According to a 2021 nutrient study, seniors who habitually consumed processed gluten-free foods had greater levels of inflammatory markers and insulin resistance than those who consumed whole grains. So, we still need to read the label, even if it says gluten-free. Of course, your truth serum is included among the ingredients. It's not helping your body if it begins with starches or has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, especially ones you can't pronounce. Healthy gluten-free choices are now available, particularly when sprouted or fermented whole grain millet, brown rice, or buckwheat breads can be highly beneficial. However, they are uncommon. Usually, you have to bake them yourself or search specialty shops. That is a sobering reminder of reality. Many individuals grab gluten-free breads in the mistaken belief that they are doing the right thing, but it seems like most of those loaves are actually processed carbohydrates. Let's now discuss the final item on your list: sweet breads such as cinnamon swirl, raisin toast, and banana bread at breakfast. They are everywhere, but what's the true price of such comfort after 60? For older folks, sweet breads are among the most reassuring and detrimental options. They are comforting, recognizable, and frequently evoke feelings of nostalgia. However, underneath that sweetness, especially beyond age 60, is a metabolic trap. The majority contain a lot of processed flours, added sugars, seed oils, and chemical preservatives. In addition to causing blood sugar spikes and energy dumps, that combo eventually causes inflammation, weight gain, and even restless nights. Your body is catching up if it begins with sweets. That's right. Your metabolism battles to maintain equilibrium throughout the day. If the signal from your first meal is one of carbohydrate and sugar, according to a 2020 Harvard study, older persons who had refined carbohydrates first thing in the morning were 32% more likely to develop metabolic syndrome within 5 years. That puts everything in perspective, because we consider breakfast to be a mild beginning. However, it's the beginning of a blood sugar storm for many folks. Let's turn the page now. For the entire episode, the majority of people have been anticipating this. Let's discuss the breads that the body genuinely needs for assistance. The ones you do suggest after age 60. Which one is at the top of your list of good ones? First, I suggest sprouted grain bread such as Ezekiel bread. Its ingredients are entire grains that have been sprouted and soaked, which releases minerals and facilitates digestion. For those over 60, that is important compared to ordinary whole wheat. Sprouted bread has a slower rate of blood sugar rise, higher fiber, and a lower inflammatory response. It promotes joint relief, cerebral clarity, and digestion. It's typically located in the freezer area. In fact, that's a positive indication. Real living food without any gimmicks or preservatives. You make a really good point. The fact that real food goes bad is not a fault. That indicates that it is alive. I also appreciate that bread isn't being completely eliminated. It's about figuring out which ones operate with your body, rather than against it now. Let's move on to the following item on your list. Sourdough is one of my personal favorites. Why is it so remarkable, particularly for seniors, if baked the old-fashioned way? Sourdough is one of the most senior-friendly breads. Fermentation is the key. Instead of using commercial yeast, true sourdough employs a natural starter. Some of the gluten is broken down during that fermentation, which also lowers phytic acid and creates healthy molecules that help with blood sugar regulation and digestion. According to a 2022 study in Frontiers in Nutrition, elderly persons who ate traditionally fermented sourdough had fewer inflammatory markers and far better post-meal glucose control than those who ate non-fermented bread. Your body's reaction is actually altered by the fermenting process. As a result, the bread breaks down more slowly, reduces inflammation, and actually aids in the body's absorption of nutrients like zinc and magnesium, which are crucial for healthy joints and the brain. Taste satisfaction is yet another advantage. The texture, depth, and complexity of real sourdough are remarkable. You require less food when it really satisfies you. Just by eating more thoughtfully, your metabolism improves. The section on mineral absorption, in particular, is fascinating. Although most people don't associate bread with things like joint strength or cognitive function, it is obvious that when prepared properly, it may help both. Hearing that something as basic as fermentation can have such a significant impact on our body's reactions is also heartening. We have 2 more breads to talk about before we have to end this session, because the subject is making me hungry. Which bread kind will be the next to make your list of recommended breads? Rye bread, more especially rich whole grain rye, which is frequently found in traditional European diets, comes next. In the West, it's less prevalent, but it ought to be, particularly for those over 60. A unique kind of fiber known as arabinoxylin is found in rye. This fiber helps control blood sugar, slows down digestion, and nourishes your gut's beneficial bacteria. That's crucial as we get older, since the microbiome's diversity tends to decrease, which affects everything from mood to immunity. According to a 2021 study from Scandinavia that was published in the Journal of Internal Medicine, elderly persons who frequently ate rye bread had better insulin sensitivity and less inflammatory markers than those who ate wheat-based breads. It's wiser carbs, not simply slower ones. Just use caution. Not all rye is made equally. White flour is often used to make the soft, sweet rye that you see at delis, which is frequently filled with sugar. Choose rye that is dense, dark, and seeded ideally. It should have few ingredients, and the whole rye flour stated first, not the fluffy rye you buy at stores. That makes perfect sense. And I believe that distinction is crucial, since most people mistakenly believe they are eating rye when in reality they are simply eating white bread dressed in a darker outfit. Let's wrap this up. Then you've given us traditional sourdough, sprouted grain, and now real rye. Which bread, in your opinion, is the last one that genuinely promotes health after age 60? Given that you saved this for last, is it particularly special? Not particularly noteworthy, yet frequently overlooked. Rice bread is the last one. Easy, delicate, and incredibly nourishing, especially when made with brown or black rice, which is a complete grain. For generations, rice has been used in various ways in Japan, not only as a side dish, but also as a source of balanced energy. Although rice bread is naturally gluten-free, it is produced from a single whole grain, which makes it easier for seniors to digest than other commercial gluten-free items. Additionally, it contains resistant starch, a kind of carbohydrate that promotes gut microbiota and helps control blood sugar. The consistency of rice bread is what I adore about it. It complements well with simple foods and doesn't cause bloating or an insulin surge. Steamed veggies, miso soup, and a small amount of fish or tofu. This type of food keeps your body light, focused, and at ease. It's not ostentatious, but what you want from eating isn't ostentatious after 60. It's trust, which rice bread subtly conveys. That's a really strong way to phrase it. Food shouldn't stimulate your system after the age of 60. It ought to back it up. Kind, reliable, and stable. Again, thank you for guiding us through this, Doctor. It's not about completely avoiding bread. Selecting people who age with you rather than against you is the key. Do you have anything to add to wrap up this episode? Every bite you take after the age of 60 either contributes to or borrows from your future. Pick breads that are regenerative. Well said. We appreciate everyone's presence today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you would want to help us. You can also use the link in our bio to make a little